tomorrow is the beginning of the 20th anniversary season for nonviolence. And the Association for Global New Thought recently celebrated their 20th anniversary in October with a symposium called Engage Spirituality. So there are a couple of things that I wanted to share about all of that, both of which really tie together and are so pivotal in what we do. First of all, the purpose of AGNT, Association for Global New Thought, is to take this teaching that we engage in all the time out into the world. It is the response to practically a festering and a longing, an urgency within so many to take what we learn in these rooms out into the world. It's sort of a maturation that we can't stay on the cushion and on the mat and in our little caves and glass houses forever. That there's a purpose to what we have been becoming, what we have been learning. And so AGNT has already been dedicated for 20 years to that. And if you just go to agnt.org, you will discover many amazing things. Perhaps you'll even discover a calling to be part of it. And if you do, please let me know, because we would love for someone to pick up that active engagement in this community as part of this community. So the other thing about Engage Spirituality is that they asked this question at the conference of everyone: what does Engage Spirituality look like to you? And Dr. David Goldberg, who was in attendance and is also the editor-in-chief of the Science of Mind magazine, shared some of their responses in his publisher's note here on page 9. Here's what some of those responses were of the people who attended the conference. We seek connectedness by expanding the definition of New Thought to include new thinkers from all faiths and orientations at the local, national, and global levels, tangibly engaging social, religious, and cultural diversity. We live as the change we wish to see by empowering ourselves to activate our vision and model wholeness for others. We stand for the living embodiment of the values and principles we embrace. We are creating a brand for New Thought that calls violence by its name and stands for nonviolence in every context. We demonstrate the good and positive in the face of negative language and narratives, supporting conscious news sources and forums for dialogue. We focus on what we are for, regardless of the cost. We learn from the past. I would have liked to have been there, so the next best thing is to discover everything that came out of that and see what calls to us to be part of that. So connectedness, new thinkers, faiths and orientations of every kind, local, national, global, engaging social, religious, and cultural diversity, living the change that we wish to see, empowering ourselves to activate and model it, standing for it, and creating a new brand for a New Thought that calls violence by its name and chooses nonviolence in every context, and on and on and on. I'm so fascinated, more than fascinated by this. Like so many people, I decided to wear red, white, and blue on purpose, sort of. I'm not wearing very much white, but as people are they're feeling a little bit red. They're feeling a little bit blue. And that white could be the purity of every soul that knows in the middle of all of that, there's some clarity. There's power, there's possibility awaiting to be birthed by us. So we have a sense of urgency, we have something festering, we have something that wants to become, and we've been tapped to be part of bringing it. Learn from the past, right? So wow, it's inspiring. And we can ask ourselves, what does engaged spirituality look like to us? We're invited in the editor's note to consider going to the Science of Mind Facebook page and posting our answers. You can also, if you look in the front of this month's magazine, which is not out there, you can email the editor directly, and it may appear in next month's, or about 4 months down the line, in a Science of Mind magazine. And we'd like you to email us too. If you want to scribble it and drop it in the basket, we are, like I said, we are kicking it up. We're kicking it up a notch. We're taking it further this year. And so there's going to be a lot more engagement. There's going to be a lot more involvement. There will be more voices heard. And we will become more tangible with one another and in the community. So ask yourself what that means, and let us know what that means for you. So this season for nonviolence is an observance of the birthdays of Dr. Martin Luther King, of Mahatma Gandhi, and of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, and in the spirit of the legacies that each of them left, and one of them continues to live right now. Not just so that we can take time every year to acknowledge how inspiring that is, of course not. Because we have an opportunity to ask ourselves every year, if not more often, what is alive in me that is like that? What is alive in me that I haven't said yet or done yet? What is alive in me that won't let me go, that is mine to do? And so this season, now 20 years old, is still dedicated to keeping those messages alive and finding out what part of us is ready to deliver the next part and create the next legacy. The spiritual wisdom of each of these suggests some things that we can take to heart today. Each of them practiced or practices nonviolence. Each of them taught that and has inspired so many others to discover some way to do the same. Each of them organized, spoke, wrote, rallied, marched. Each of them started a conversation. And even those two who are no longer on this earth in bodily form are continuing to do all that and to start those conversations and perpetuate those conversations. And look at the amazing, compassionate, gentle example of the Dalai Lama. When we were in one of our Prosperity Plus classes, we learned through Mary Morrissey that Dalai Lama refers to China as his special friend, right? His special friend. There are stories of those Tibetans who were tortured in China, and their only regret was that they almost gave in to hatred under that duress. Almost. So there's an interesting thing going on. It's going on everywhere. It's going on a lot right now, and there's no denying it. That there are people that other people and us are pointing our fingers at, saying, they're bad, they're wrong, they're violent, we need to get rid of them, we need to keep them out, we need to keep them in, we need to do this, we need to do that, with regard to those people. These are pronounced symptoms of a belief in separation that have reached a point where we can no longer ignore them. Now, one of the places where we can get stuck is that we can say we just need to do something with those people and then everything will be all right. And we've been trying that for thousands of years without success. All we have done collectively is exacerbate the polarity and exacerbate the pain and exacerbate the seeming distance from good and from each other. So when we see what's going on in the world and we say, you know what, something's got to change, we need to do something about those violent people, I believe that we're forgetting and overlooking something very important. Violent action is the product of violent emotion. Violent emotion is the product of violent feeling. Violent feeling is the product of violent thought. And those people are not the only ones who have those. The truth of the matter is that every day To some degree or another, most of us have some kind of a thought that violates life. It might be so mild that we barely notice it, and certainly wouldn't equate it with something horrendous enough to get on the news. And yet there is a connection, because we are connected at the level of the collective unconscious. And we are also connected by whether we consciously choose or not to use our conscious awareness in a certain way. Whether we are victims of massive global groupthink, or we are thinking clearly as individuals connected with our wholeness. So what I'm doing this morning is I'm acting as a practitioner for all of humanity right now. What I'm saying is that if all of humanity were to crowd into my office in the form of one person and say, those people out there are doing bad things, and would you please treat for them to stop? We would sit and we would say, okay, are you ready? You must be ready because you're in my office. How about this? What do you imagine in you is equal to that? And at first it would be absolutely nothing. But see, that's separation. And that is a part of the problem. Because if I say we just need to handle those people, and I disown and pin on others, I repress and deny my own thoughts that lead to feelings, that lead to emotions, that lead to actions that are less than life-affirming. I am helping to perpetuate that problem. We do this reverse engineering in our classes, where we look at something that's happening in our lives and we trace it back to the emotional state that happened right before then and say, and then to the feeling state that led to that emotion and say, And finally we speculate what might have been the thought or the belief that gave rise to that feeling and that emotion and eventually that outcome. At that point, that is the point of power. We can turn it around. We can replace it with a new idea that will inevitably produce a new outcome. It won't if we're not willing to look. It won't if we're not willing to have the conversation. You've probably heard so much out there lately on the internet and wherever you get your information about the importance of changing the conversation. The truth of the matter is that every great thing begins with a conversation, even if it's with yourself. Our Trower class on Tuesday night is about the creative process and how it begins with that inner dialogue. And then when we say yes to it, it becomes something out there. And how? And so we practice understanding that so we can use it intentionally to shift our outcomes. So what do we do? Oh my gosh, I'm not even going to go there with what many people believe the solutions are. Why? Because I could get involved in polarity and be useless to help to affect change. If I can stay centered, do you know you can read the ancient Hermetic philosophy from ancient Egypt about managing polarity? You can learn the metaphysics of managing polarity rather than being pulled this way and that by it. So yes, we live in a world that appears to be divided. We live in a world right now that is experiencing polarity. We live in a world that is also experiencing such extreme symptoms of what we have denied that we have in ourselves, what we have repressed and said, oh no, not me, not that. That it's all being triggered. It's showing up because it can't be hidden anymore. Ernest Holmes, as some of you have heard me say, says that when the body gets too congested, you simply get dead. Well, think about that as the body of all of humanity. It's congested. We need a good cleanse. We need a good cleanse. We're experiencing toxicity at the level that is unavoidable. The symptoms of those things being reflected back to us that we try to pin on somebody else. Those things that we thought were not part of who we are, showing up anyway, kind of biting us in the butt. Right? Think about this. Have you ever done something around the house like, oh, I'm going to do the dishes when I'm angry? I'm going to back up my car while I'm really flustered and I'm sure I'm going to be late and maybe I'm mad at somebody? Have you ever tried to clean the house or even walk through a door that's always been in the same place when you're ticked off? You stub your toe, you break the dish, you put a dent in your car, right? You maybe try to move the furniture when you're angry and pull your back out. Those are all perfectly mundane and very useful examples of us entertaining anger, fear, unresolved something or other, and being in motion and experiencing the results of that. So on a global level, on a collective level, this is what is happening. And we can no longer deny it. It is time to stop and to take stock, and to do some of that reverse engineering and get back to that place, that point of power where we set something new in motion that produces another result. If we allow ourselves to be mesmerized by and pulled into polarity, we will not be of any use to anyone. So here we are with this opportunity. I think this is what engaged spirituality is. So often I quote the words of my friend's husband who said, "Oh no, does this mean we have to grow again?" The answer is yes. Do you know in A Course in Miracles it says that every act is either an act of love or a cry for love, right? We all know that. So think about this story that's unfolding right now. Do you want the story to be that we didn't have the guts to speak us up, those of us who are mostly passive? Do you want the story to be that those of us who tend to be aggressive just didn't know how to say it right and mowed a few people down in the process? Do you want the story to be that most of us who waffle between passivity and aggression just didn't know how to be assertive, how to be constructive in our communication, and so we made messes on both sides? Do you want the history books to read that things got really, really intense and nobody had the guts or the skill to say something, to start the right conversation, to affect change, and so we destroyed ourselves and each other? No. We don't want that. And yet, here I am. I know how to speak. I know how to teach. I know how to write. Oh, but get me in an environment where I don't have any of those roles to rely on. And I might be afraid that what we have to say to each other isn't comfortable. Chances are I won't say it. I'll go write it down somewhere, and then maybe I'll eat something or watch something that makes me feel more comfortable. We're all being called to get out of our comfort zone. We are all being called. That's why this room is not as full as the ones where we just promote comfort. Because what does it mean? I think that what it means is not only do the conversations need to be started, but most of humanity just needs to learn how to communicate at all. How do we express those things? You think about it, when you were a child, before you learned how to speak, pre-verbal, lots of stuff going on and didn't know how to say it, right? Before you could walk and you wanted to be over there and you didn't know how to do it, right? Well, this would be like visiting a foreign land and saying, gosh, I really want to participate. I don't know the language here yet. I'm going to have to learn it. So how do we make it safe for each other to access what we've been repressing? Access what's scary and painful and is way down there that results in our being defensive or isolating, being protective or escapists. I'm talking about myself, by the way. that thinks we have no choice, so we go ahead and do the dishes when we're angry and we break some. You know that we gotta speed and get a ticket, or back up in a huff and put another dent in the car. Well, I haven't done that for years, but I did. Or be so angry that we run into a wall or a door frame that's always been there and break a toe. You know? We're all connected. And so when we talk about this idea of starting conversations, it's not just that we can delay the inevitable of actually affecting change. It's because all great things begin with conversation. And so I believe that we have the opportunity to learn how to do that. In places like this, to create safety for expressing what's really on our hearts without judgment. We're going to have to learn how to do that. To learn how to express what frightens us, what angers us, what saddens us. What is the fear of loss or further loss that is behind all of that? Is it of abandonment? Is it of dashed dreams? Is it too painful to even speak of something that we love to be or do or have, and so we just try not to think about it? Can we create safe places for that to occur? And can we learn how to support one another in that discovery? Can we learn how to express ourselves about how we really feel? Because if we can trace our way back from where we've ended up, these glaring symptoms, to the thoughts which are followed by feelings and emotions and set the creative process in motion and produce results that realize those dreams, those potentials, those possibilities. Otherwise, it's all just hot air, right? And it's getting hotter. So this is what I believe engaged spirituality means to me. I believe that it means having those conversations. It means facing that urgency and that festering within me that usually, really, believe it or not, wants to stay on the sidelines rather than risking sharing a radical idea. That wants to play it safe with what I do in my spare time or what I eat or what I'm willing to talk about or not talk about, rather than discover how to be just totally open with what frightens me, with what angers me, with the ideal that I'm longing for and the contrast with my current reality. The languages that I'll have to learn how to speak. The things I'll have to learn how to do. You see? So my invitation this morning is for each of us to ask ourselves, individually and also collectively, what are we repressing? What are we stuffing, pretending that we're not feeling? Can you talk to a practitioner about it? Can you talk to me about it? Can you talk to one of your friends in this room about it? Is there at least one safe person you can tell it all to? What are those things? What are the conversations that we could be having that would be part of that change? Where are they taking place? Or can you be part of starting that? Lots of people pick up the phone and leave messages for their representatives. Lots of people sign petitions. Lots of people walk with other people. Lots of people post on Facebook. What an amazing forum. Are you using it constructively? Are you using it to vent? Are you using it unknowingly to contribute to duality and polarity and dissent? Each of us has an opportunity right now in human history to choose how this story will be written. We have an opportunity, and we have all of these tools at hand. So I invite you to consider speaking with someone in this room, in your circle of trusted spiritual friends who support you. I invite you to find somewhere and some way to express yourself, to become a student of constructive communication. and to identify what that urgency is within you that is seeking expression by means of you, and give it some airtime. Give it some airtime. And finally, I invite you to consider joining one of the bodies within this center where those conversations are also occurring. We have our, after celebration, we have the reflection connection. We have a class on Tuesday nights where we will really be digging deep with this. We have practitioner students in the room, raise your hands, oh my gosh, who are going to really take it to the next level. This is so exciting. They will become an expanded part of our leadership, our ministry, and our tangible work in the world. We have lay leaders with so much experience to share with us about communication and compassion and possibility. This is the year that lies ahead, and it's the one that we create. So I invite you to identify what your part is and know that we will support you in it 100%.